All right, earlier today, Joe Biden had a 110-minute-long video call with Chinese President Xi Jinping to address the ongoing crisis in Ukraine. The White House released a summary of the call this afternoon, saying that Biden, quote, described the implications and consequences if China provides material support to Russia as it conducts brutal attacks against Ukrainian cities and civilians. Joining us now is Dean Chang, Senior Research Fellow at the Heritage Foundation's Asian Studies Center. Dean, good to see you. There's been a lot of speculation that Chairman Xi has sway over Putin, but today's call didn't seem to indicate that Biden moved the needle or had any sort of forceful language or sway over that at all, did he?
No, I think that when we look at both the Chinese reporting as well as the American readout, what we have is the two talked. President Biden basically said to the Chinese, you better watch out. And Xi Jinping said, we have our own concerns on our own relationship with Russia. Certainly no indication that Xi was going to come to the American side and put pressure on Putin.
Dean, you know, Russia's military has experienced setbacks lately. We've seen slow progress. Morale is tanking. U.S. officials say they believe that Xi has been unsettled by this. Do you think that this will dissuade China, perhaps, from helping Russia?
Well, I think it depends on what kind of help people are talking about. The Chinese have been pretty clear that politically, diplomatically, they support the Russians. They haven't condemned the invasion. In fact, they refuse to even use the word invasion. There are still economic ties between these two countries. The news this week, of course, is China going to provide military supplies to Russia? There wasn't much indication before this that they were going to. I do suspect that with everything that's been going on with the poor Russian advance, the Chinese probably aren't going to start supplying tanks and aircraft. But again, I'm not sure they were going to in the first place.
You know, Dean, I think about the current situation. I read both of the readouts that you mentioned, and it's sort of like two different phone calls happened, right? The U.S. readout and the readout that China put out. It's like China's like, the U.S. agreed that Taiwan is one of our islands that we can visit. I mean, it was a separate world. But I keep thinking about the world that's existed over the last 2 years, right? In terms of post-COVID, we've become more dependent on them, more economically dependent and more manufacturing dependent. Their military has grown stronger. And I'm thinking, do we really have any leverage to tell China what to do in a situation like this?
Well, it depends on how much we're willing to also suffer in the process. But to be clear, there are a lot of Chinese products that depend on American parts as part of that integrated global supply chain. Huawei phones need Android apps. ZTE phones need American microchips. So there is definitely a relationship. What the Chinese have made very clear, however, is if you hurt us, we'll hurt you back. And there are things that we depend on them for. The most disturbing thing, however, is that, as far as I can tell, we actually didn't even give them a list of the things we want them to do. And earlier, late last year, when Deputy Secretary of State Wendy Sherman went to China, they gave us a long list of all the things they expect us to do if we want better relations.
That is that is so insightful what you just said. I mean, you're right. Neither of the readouts, we didn't actually delineate what we had asked them to do, and I think that's very telling. In a 110-minute conversation, there was no ask. So I think what you just said is literally just zeroed in on what the problem is. Dean Chang, thank you so much for joining us. Have a great weekend.
You too. Thanks.